Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Vanachai Yamuna Vanachai Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. All glories to Radha Govardhana, all glories to the Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, Text 45, Devahuti's Lamentation. Tashmin vimana utkrishtam sayamrati karim shrita nacha buddhyata tam kalam patya pikyena sangata tashmin vimana utkrishtam sayamrati karim shrita nachu buddhyata tam karam patya pikyena sangata tashyam vamena utkristam sayamrati karim shrita nacha buddhyata tam kalam patya pikyena sangata. Men, Prabhus. Tashmin vamana kristam ayamrati karim shrita nacha buddhyata tam kalam patya pikyena sangata tashmin vamana kristam sayamrati karim shrita. Mataji's. No one? We just move on? We're good? Word for word. Tashmin. In that. Vimani. Airplane. Utkristam. Excellent. Saryam. A bed. Rati. Karim. Increasing sexual desires. Shrita, situated on. Na, not. Cha, and. Abuddhyata, she noticed. Tam, that. Kalam, time. Patya, with her husband. Apikyena, most handsome. Sangata, in company. Translation. In the aerial mansion, Devahuti, in the company of her handsome husband, situated on an excellent bed that increased sexual desires, could not realize how much time was passing. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sex indulgence is so enjoyable for materialistic people that when they engage in such activities, they forget how time is passing. Saint Kardama and Devahuti, in their sex indulgence, also forgot how time was passing. I think today they wanted me to do the next two verses also. Is that correct? We'll just do the translation. So text 46. While the couple who eagerly longed for sexual pleasure were thus enjoying themselves by virtue of mystic powers, 100 autumns pass like a brief lifespan. And the final one, 47. The powerful Kadama Muni was the knower of everyone's heart, and he could grant whatever one desired. Knowing the spiritual soul, he regarded her as half of his body, dividing himself into 9 forms. He impregnated Devahuti with 9 discharge of semen. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Since Kadama Muni could understand that Devahuti wanted many children, at the first chance he begot 9 children at one time. He is described here as Vibhu, the most powerful master. By his yogic power, he could at once produce 9 daughters in the womb of Devahuti. Imagine having 9 daughters in the womb, Oshana. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Govardhana Pacharine Nirase Shunyavari Praskacharya Shatine Jai Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, I'm taking some notes for today. First of all, I'd like to ask the blessings of the senior devotees here. Of the Southerners especially. Been a devotee for how many years? Like 40 years? 30? Yeah, wow. So yeah, asking for all the blessings from the Vaishnavas that I can say something of use today. Okay, so I've entitled today's class, I like to title the classes. Just trying to get this microphone up a bit. I'm going to wear my glasses today. The bondages of this world and our life raft. So in this chapter, most of you I see in here every day in the Bhagavatam class, we've been talking about Devahuti and Kadama Muni and their relationship and how it all came together. And especially last week, we've seen a lot of the class speakers talking about the importance of Grihastha life. We can learn from them how a man and woman interact, the love they had for each other. I know back in the day in Krishna consciousness, there was lots of, you would say, unorganized marriage where the man wouldn't take care of their woman. They would just be off doing service and just push their wife to the wayside. But as a Grihastha, and as we see within and throughout the Bhagavatam, it's the man's duty to look after the woman and care for the woman. And this creates a very healthy home life. And we also see, and one of the most important aspects that we see throughout this pastime, and Rupa Raghunath mentioned it to Krishna Rupa when she was giving class, I think it was around 2 weeks ago, that although Kadama Muni was this great sage and he could create all these wonderful things with his mind and he had all the mystic cities, which is really mind-blowing actually, he still put Krishna consciousness as the topmost asset. Hare Krishna. Couple bars. Yeah. So yeah, I was saying that although he had all the opulence, the mystic cities, he had everything like a man could desire, he still put the most important asset as his Krishna consciousness. So his relationship with Krishna. And I remember when I first became a devotee, it must have been a couple years after I met the devotees, I was watching a class by Tamal Krishna Goswami. He's now left his body. And he was saying that, everything that we do in our life, that everything that we strive for, the money, the success, the prestige, all this stuff that we really crave for, and so many people in the world spend their whole entire life just running after that carrot, trying to be someone, trying to beat those Joneses next door. That in reality, the only thing of any value within this material world is one's Krishna consciousness. And when one's Krishna consciousness is strong, everything else flows from there. When there's strong Krishna consciousness in household life, in family life, it filters down through the family. There's healthy Krishna consciousness within the household. The children have healthy relationships with Krishna consciousness, with their family, with their friends, and so forth. And I remember, when I was a young boy, I had lots of wild experiences when I was a young boy. But I used to have this reoccurring dream. I was only 6 years old, around that age. And I would wake up in these sweats, sweat pouring off my forehead. Very unusual. And it was just the same dream. So I would be dreaming, I would be laying in my deathbed, and just before I took my last breath, I would just have this sickling feeling come over me that I've wasted my life. And I was having that over and over and over again. And that stayed with me. And for those close to me, there's been certain stages of my life where I've gone to step into something. And because of that dream that I had over a couple of years when I was younger, I've kind of thought to myself, is this going to be of value to my life? And Krishna's mercy and the devotee's mercy, over 10 years ago, I came into contact with Krishna consciousness, and I know for sure that I'm really working on that most important asset, the asset that means most, which is one's Krishna consciousness. And when that moment comes, when I'm on the deathbed, I feel as though that hopefully I'll have it within me to place my mind upon Krishna and look back on my life and know that I've lived a meaningful life in Krishna's service, around Krishna's devotees, chanting Krishna's names, hearing Krishna's pastimes, worshipping Krishna and living in the holy Dham, because that is the perfection of life. No matter what we chase, the big houses, the big money, the flying castles like Kadama Muni had in the sky, Krishna consciousness is our most valuable asset. So back to family life, there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita. It talks about the structure of family life, and if we don't follow it, what happens? 140 in the Bhagavad Gita. Ardama bhavat Krishna prasadusyanti kulashriya Strishu dushtashu vasniya jayati vana sankara. When in religion is prominent in family, O Krishna, the woman of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of the womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. So the purport for this verse is very interesting. Good population in human society is the basis principle for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress in life. The Varnashram religion's principles were so designed that the good population would prevail in society for the general spiritual progress of state and community. Such population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by elderly members of the family by being engaged in various religious practices. Women will not be misled into adultery. according to Chanakya Pandit. Women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. So the different family traditions of religious activity should always engage them, and thus their chastity and devotion will give birth to good population eligible for participating in Varnashram system. On the failure of such Varnashram dharma, naturally the women become free to act and mix with men, and thus adultery is indulged in at risk of unwanted population. Irresponsible men also provoke adultery in society, and thus unwanted children flood the human race at the risk of war and pestilence. So it's very interesting, this purport in the Bhagavad Gita, and I've been doing some research at home a lot lately. I'm pretty much doing research on this topic every week, and I have for quite some years. And when there's so discord in family lives, there's so many problems within the household. And I was doing some research this week, and in Australia alone, 60% of Australians experience some sort of violence within their home. 1 in 4 women under the age of 18 are sexually abused. That's 1 in 4. 1 in 7 men are sexually abused under 18. 300,000 women a year are affected by domestic violence. That's 300,000 reports to the police from individual women. Men's suicide is the biggest killer for men from 15 to 44. And the last year, 3,000 Australian men took their own lives. So we can just see, we can read scripture, we can hear about it, but when we go into the figures of Australia and then around the world, we see what discord in family life is doing, and it just spreads out and out and out. So it starts in the family, it goes into our society, our country, then the world, and it causes so many problems. And that's why it's very important as devotees we follow certain regulative principles. We chant 16 rounds because this keeps us strong. When one doesn't follow certain principles, they can go out, they take lots of drugs, they have sexual relations with random people, they bring in children into this world, unloving parents, broken homes, no love, no Krishna consciousness, and it causes problem after problem after problem. And that's why it's so important at this very stage upon this world to bring forth Krishna consciousness. All these figures here, everything that we've been talking about today, highlights the importance of Krishna consciousness, not only in our own lives, but in everyone's lives around us. Some may say, what's the cause of all these uncontrolled desires? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the problems we see in family life, Griha Madi, is due to just uncontrolled desires. They can't control their desires. And there's this story of a donkey, and he wanted to be a tiger because he's just a donkey. He's like, these tigers, they're the king of the jungle. I want to walk around like a tiger. The donkey's got no respect. And he goes behind, in his little cave, this donkey, and he starts painting some stripes on him. And he walks out of his cave and he starts walking around the forest, and he's like, look at me. I'm the big king of the jungle now. I'm a tiger. And he walks around with his chest out, and all the animals are kind of giving him a little bit of respect. He's feeling very proud. But this one day, some clouds started to come over, and it started to rain upon the donkey who had these stripes painted on him. And the stripes started to fade away, one stripe by one stripe. And the donkey was revealed. This guy's just cheating. He's really a donkey. And all the other animals started beating him up. They knew he could. He was just a donkey. And that's like us in this material world. We walk around with our attempts to gain wealth, knowledge, but at the end of the day, it just all fades away. We have our chest out, we're proud, But really, the only solution is to drink the nectarian knowledge, the message of the Lord, which is flowing from such books that Srila Prabhupada has brought forward to us, such as the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita. And by hearing this message from the Supreme Lord, all this contamination, this pride that we have within the material world, this need to lord it over, this need to control, is just completely eradicated. And I know it's very difficult to navigate through this material world. It may, I may sit up here and be like, read the Bhagavad Gita, read the Srimad Bhagavatam, chant Hare Krishna. But we have some problems within our own life that could make that difficult. And that's the nature of the material world, but we just got to keep turning towards Krishna. As individuals within this spiritual world, we're dealing with the three modes of material nature, the four defects of conditioned life, the threefold miseries. There's so many coming at us from left, right, and center. But each and every day we have to make a promise to ourselves that we're going to do our best within our own spiritual life and take to Krishna consciousness at every minute of our day. I just started reading the Srimad Bhagavatam again. Well, listening. I'm very fortunate. I get 8 hours to listen a day because I paint throughout the day. It's one of my blessings from my work. Get to listen a lot. And in the introduction of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's very interesting. Like Srila Prabhupada, when he started to have this idea, when the idea, I suppose, really started to bubble to the surface that, this is going to happen. I'm going to take Krishna consciousness to the West. And he really knuckled down. He really started to write. And he really thought and meditated on the importance of finishing the Bhagavatam, especially the first canto, which was split into 3 books. I think they've got it in the shop at the moment. It's really beautiful. And I was at work and the introduction split into 2 sections. I think it goes for around 2 hours if you're listening to it, so it's quite long. And it's really amazing. You could just read that introduction and he's just encapsulated the essence of Krishna consciousness within that introduction, within the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I was listening at work and I rewind again, and he just said something very interesting. He got to this certain stage of the introduction and he said, there's only one religion in the age of Kali, only one religion, and that is to chant the holy names of the Lord. Hari Nama, Hari Nama, Hari Nama Kevalam, Kadu Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Pate Anyata. In this age of hypocrisy and quarrel, the only means of deliverance is to chant the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So, we've been talking about in this class family life and how much destruction it's causing upon this planet when not done correctly. But the real medicine that we need to take for this to filter down into every aspect of our life is the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then, as devotees, as we start to progress on the path, we should try to smother. This is really important. Smother our lives in the 5 limbs of Bhakti Yoga. We should never give the material energy an inch. I was listening to a class, another class which was many, many years ago. I forget his name now. But he said the material energies, like when I was at school, we didn't have all the machines. Like we just had this little planer thing. So when you did woodwork, you would have to like shave it by hand. Like a planer or something, I suppose it's called. And he was saying that's what the material energy is like. It's like you've got a door which doesn't really fit, and the material energy just takes a little bit day by day, and over time it's a lot, and you fall back into that illusionary energy once again. So like I was saying, it's very important as devotees to smother our lives in the 5 limbs of Bhakti Yoga. There's a verse in the CC, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 128. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtana, Bhagavat Shravana, Mathura Vas, Sri Matira, Shradhaya, Sevana. One should associate with devotees. This is a very important aspect of spiritual life. All ashrams, we have to be doing this. When we associate with devotees, they give us our strength. There's 2 beautiful brothers who have been over in Mayapur for like 40 plus years. One of them left their body during COVID. I think Janani Vas was the one giving the class. And these men, you were very good friends with those brothers, right? Yeah, very fortunate. They're very elevated personalities within this material world. So they've been engaged in Krishna consciousness for so long. And he was giving class one day in Mayapur, and he said that if he just left the association of devotees for like a week, his spiritual life would fall to the wayside. So he's trying to explain to us how important devotee association is. They give us our strength. To think that we can do it alone, to think we can do it with no one in our corner, no one around us, is actually pride. It's me. I'm very advanced. I don't need any help. I don't need any guidance. I don't need any friendship around me. But this is such an important part of Krishna consciousness. And also in family life. You know, I know when I was in the Brahmachari ashram, you've got that strong association. But also when you move on to the Grihastha ashram, it's very important to keep strong Krishna conscious relationships. Very important. It keeps you strong in Krishna consciousness. Then to chant the holy names of the Lord. This is the most important aspect of Krishna consciousness. We should always be chanting Hare Krishna. If you take initiation within ISKCON, you chant 16 plus rounds every day. There is no excuse. That's very, very important. One thing within this material world, especially in the age of Kali, it's very difficult to hold vows. Vows are very weak within today's age. So if you take initiation, you have to chant 16 plus rounds each and every day. No excuse. This gives one strength in spiritual life. This gives one courage in spiritual life. And I'm telling this from personal experience, the material world comes at you hard. No matter what stage you're at in your life, no matter how advanced you are in Krishna consciousness, if you're in the beginning stages, if you're a very advanced devotee, the world will throw the kitchen sink at you. And it's very difficult to push forward if one isn't steady in Krishna consciousness. And that steadiness comes from chanting Hare Krishna. It's described in the revealed scriptures that the holy name of Krishna is no different than his name. So, if one proclaims that they love Krishna and they're not chanting 16 plus rounds a day, that's a very difficult statement to believe. If one loves Krishna, they chant 16 plus rounds each and every day. If one loves Prabhupada, I just finished reading the Lila Mrita. Once again, it's the most ecstatic book. I could just read that on repeat. Prabhupada gave his whole life to save everyone within this material world. And it's no joke. He put everything into it. He suffered so much to give us real life. And at first, it was going to be 64 rounds. Very merciful. 16 rounds we have to chant. Very important. Not just when we want, just not at Kirtan festivals, but each and every day we should try to deepen our own japa meditation. Hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, which everyone's doing right now. Very, very important. Hearing is such an important aspect of Krishna consciousness. There was a pastime when, I think I mentioned this in the class before, when Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he was having darshan, and I don't think he had his glasses, and he was saying that, you know, it's not really about the scene, it's about having the right consciousness for Krishna to want to see me. And we get that right consciousness through continuously reading the books which has been handed down to us by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. There was once a great devotee who walked this planet by the name of Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He did some amazing preaching around the world. And he stated that if one chants 16 rounds a day and reads 2 hours a day, Maya will not touch them. So that's our little life raft right there, spoken by a very advanced devotee within this Krishna consciousness movement. Residing within Mathura, we're very fortunate, right? This is the holy Dham, New Govardhana. I know lots of us long to go to Vrindavan. We long to go to Sri Mayapura Dham, Jagannath Puri. All those places are very ecstatic. But we're very fortunate as devotees that we live here at New Govardhana. This is considered a holy Dham. All these activities are taking place here. Any place where the Bhagavatam is being recited is a holy Dham. So we're very fortunate that that's covered right here. But that doesn't mean that we should not desire to go to places such as Vrindavan and Mayapur. When we visit those places as devotees, they really bring Krishna consciousness alive. You know, when I first was reading these Krishna consciousness literatures, I think when I first went to Mayapur, I hadn't read the CC yet. I just read the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. But you go to somewhere like Mayapur and you can go to the pastimes where all these pastimes were happening. And it's very ecstatic. You know, you can go to Jagannath Puri and they've got such artifacts as Lord Chaitanya's shoes, some cloth. You know, he was an actual person who was actually walking this planet. So fortunate to be so close to these pastimes. And by worshipping the deities, which happens so nicely here, so we can build that personal relationship with Krishna. I myself, I'm by Krishna's grace, I don't know how, but I get to serve my own personal Giriraj every day, and that's one of my favorite stages of the day. For 1 hour each day, I just get to focus on Giriraj, listen to Kirtan. It's just nice to be immersed in Krishna consciousness. It's very good for the mind. Moving on. And I was meditating more on this, what I've been talking about, and another really important aspect of life which kind of falls upon the association of devotees. And it kind of came to my mind when I was having a conversation with my spiritual master, His Holiness B. Krishna Maharaj. Very fortunate I get lots of personal association with him one-on-one. He was telling me, what gives someone strength in spiritual life? Like from the very beginning, some people can hold vows, some people find it very difficult. And he said, he finds that people who have very strong role models in life, when you've got strong role models from a young age, you build very nice qualities and you bring those qualities into Krishna consciousness. So if we weren't so fortunate to have good role models in our life when we were growing up, we're very fortunate now, because coming into a society such as Krishna consciousness, this ISKCON, which Prabhupada has brought to the West, there's so many role models filtering down through our disciplic succession. We're so fortunate. We've got the 6 Goswamis. We're so fortunate to have all their teachings. Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, we've got Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's just filtering down. And for myself, I remember when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I really clung to Jayananda Thakur. And he was a great devotee of Srila Prabhupada. He'd done so much service in those beginning days for this movement and really helped it get off the ground by sponsoring certain books to be printed, by building some of the first Rath carts, by bringing in such devotees as Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. So he's done so much for the movement. He's no longer with us now, but he just had this undeniable faith in Srila Prabhupada, and he had a great service attitude, and he was a great joy to be around. He always engaged others in service. He always had a smile on his face. And when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I thought if I could just mold my Krishna consciousness around him, I'll never be like him. I'm not trying to be like him, but if I can just reach to have that love that he had in his heart for Srila Prabhupada, if I could have that same service attitude, if I could have a smile on my face. Like, we're devotees. We're meant to be happy. We're so fortunate. There's so many people suffering in the world. Like, there's so many disasters in this world right now. When you wake up here here at New Govardhana, it's nice and sunny. We have beautiful trees. We have beautiful smiles all around us. We have our nice warm beds. We have our heaters. And if you just hop on a plane and go 14 hours, people are just getting bombed each and every day. This is the nature of the material world. So by being grateful that we've been given a nice place here at New Govardhana, that we're around such nice people, that we got access to the holy name, to the Srimad Bhagavatam, we smile and we share this with people because, as I said, this is the life raft for this material world. This is the real asset. We can chase this, we can chase that. We can hurt this person, we can do this, but at the end of the day, Krishna consciousness is our main asset, and that's got to be number one in our lives. So this is the real medicine today, the topmost importance. And that topmost important sentence, I remember reading about Srila Prabhupada. And you can also watch this on Abhay Charan. They made that little movie series about Srila Prabhupada, and they actually showed this scene. And Srila Prabhupada, he was told by his friend, this great sadhu is coming. And Srila Prabhupada was like, I always see these sadhus. My dad brings them over. Lots of these guys, they're just cheaters. And he's like, no, this one is the real deal. It was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada was like, yeah, I'll go. I'll go and see. And he walked into the room, and before Srila Prabhupada even sat down, he was like, you should preach this Krishna consciousness, to the Western world. You're an intelligent man. And there was so much going on in India at that time, the English were there, and he said, how can this happen? We need to do this first. We need to get out of the claws of England. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he looked at Srila Prabhupada and he said, no. There is no time. This Krishna consciousness is topmost importance. Everything else can wait, but this Krishna consciousness is number one. So this is our mission each and every day. And what's the time? 8:20. Where can I finish on? Running out of time a bit. I suppose I'll start to wind it up soon. So I suppose we'll just do a recap of today's class. So we started with the pastimes that we're experiencing here within the Srimad Bhagavatam, and how they're the leading examples of for us here within the material world. There's so many great teachings within the Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything that has been written within these scriptures, they're like roadmaps to help us live our lives. And if we follow these personalities, what they're teaching us within these scriptures, our lives will be perfect. But unfortunately, within the age of Kali, within the age we're living in right now, there is lots of struggle. People struggle to follow certain instructions, and that's where we see so much pollution within family life. And when there's pollution within family life, it runs out into society. And when society is polluted, the world becomes polluted, and that's when we see so much hate, so much anger, so much, that's mine, so much, I'm going to destroy this. But this isn't real life. Our real life is Krishna consciousness. And we should make that the ultimate goal of our life. And yes, there's going to be bad things happening around us. Yes, we're going to have bad days. But we should always just look for the essence. Sometimes I find that as individuals, the things that are happening in our life, we tag them with, this is bad, this is good, this is the things happening to us. But instead, we should just look for the essence of everything. This thing which is happening to me right now, is making me look deeper into myself, or this situation which is happening in my life right now is bringing out a quality which wasn't really residing within me, or this situation which is happening over there is giving me an opportunity to practice forgiveness. So instead of seeing everything in our lives as, why is this happening to me? Look at it as, this is happening for me to do this or to be that. And this is real Krishna consciousness, looking into ourselves and trying to better ourselves. And this is real preaching. St. Francis of Assisi, who I absolutely admired as a young boy and still do, he said, I always preach, and when needed, I use my tongue. So our actions are our most important. The way we do our Krishna consciousness, so our own sadhana, but also how we deal with problems in life, how we deal with the people in our life. And when we focus on that, when we become the best versions of ourselves, we can preach, we make more people, or we give more people access to this Krishna consciousness, because this is the real value of this life, one's Krishna consciousness. So I'll finish there. It's been very nice to be with you all today. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'm very fortunate that I've come into contact with Srila Prabhupada. I feel very blessed, and I hope throughout my life I can do some small service for Prabhupada and his movement. So please bless me that I'm able to do something small. And thank you. Hare Krishna. Is there any questions? All good?
I don't have a question, but I was, when you were saying about the intro to the Bhagavatam, how Srila Prabhupada put everything in there.
Yeah.
We started reading Krishna book last year in the ashram, and the same thing when we read the intro, it's like everything, all of Krishna consciousness is in there, everything about the world, about the expansions, It's amazing how Srila Prabhupada can do that.
Yeah. It's like to get the essence of Krishna consciousness just onto like a certain amount of pages is really mind-blowing. It's like everything Srila Prabhupada did, it's just, like I read the Lilamrita again, like I said, just a couple of weeks ago, and I've read it quite a few times now, and every time it's like more amazing. Because you study I'm one of those guys, I've studied lots of people in my life who have done great things. I've always been very intrigued by that, whether it's a sports person, a business person, a person who just runs non-stop, or a person who created a business out of nothing. I've always looked into that, how's that person doing that? Then you read Srila Prabhupada's life, and you could put all of that together, times it by 10,000, and Srila Prabhupada was there. Everything he did, just to write an amazing book upon this is a very difficult thing to do. But to write what Srila Prabhupada was writing about in such an accessible way for people within the material world, and to travel like he did around the world, and to touch so many hearts and to give so many people Krishna consciousness, and to keep that going for so many years, and to give so many people faith, I would say the most amazing thing that anyone's ever done in the modern age by far. So, and that's another reason we should always, I know personally that life can be hard at times, but we should always just really do our best to be the best version of ourselves within Krishna consciousness, just for Srila Prabhupada, to show our love to him. Of course, without him, where would we be? Life's very difficult without Krishna consciousness. Life's very difficult. There's so much suffering out in the world, undescribable, the suffering. We only see a little bit. But the deep, deep suffering which is going on out there is just mind-blowing. And we show our gratitude and we show our love to Srila Prabhupada by following his instructions. I was watching Following Srila Prabhupada last week, and they just started New Vrindavan over in America. And Srila Prabhupada went there. It was a Vyasa Puja, and a disciple was talking to Srila Prabhupada, and he's like, what's the best way to love you, Srila Prabhupada? And he thought he was going to say by saying these nice words, and he said, by following my instructions, by following the 4 regulative principles and by chanting 16 rounds a day. That gives me so much pleasure. That's how you love me. Do that. That's how you show your love. So it's very important that we do our best to love Srila Prabhupada, because he's, at the end of the day, he's our savior. That's how we show our gratitude. Thank you, Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki.